My brother's hand wrapped around my wrist so tight I felt the bones shift. He dragged me up the narrow staircase while I screamed, while our grandmother begged him to stop, while our stepmother stood at the bottom watching with her arms crossed and a smile that made my blood freeze. The attic door slammed behind us. The lock clicked, and then silence, except for my grandmother's labored breathing and the November wind howling through the cracks in the old roof. We were trapped. I turned to Grandma Grace, panic clawing at my chest. She was 79 years old. The attic had no heat. Thanksgiving dinner was still warm on the table downstairs, and my own family had just locked us in a space that hadn't been opened in years. But my grandmother wasn't panicking. She was staring at the far wall with an expression I had never seen before. Calm, focused, almost relieved. She grabbed my hand with surprising strength and whispered, "Lily, listen to me carefully. They don't know what's behind that wall. And tonight, I'm going to show you everything." That whisper, soft and steady in the freezing darkness, was the beginning of the end of everything I thought I knew about my family. I didn't move at first. The cold was already seeping through my sweater, and dust floated in the thin moonlight streaming through the single window. The attic smelled like forgotten things, like old cardboard and mothballs and decades of secrets. "Grandma, we need to get out of here," I said, my voice shaking. "You could get hypothermia. Marcus has lost his mind." She shook her head slowly. "Marcus hasn't lost anything. He's finally showing who he really is." I helped her sit on an old trunk, wrapping my cardigan around her shoulders. Her hands were trembling, but her eyes were sharp, sharper than I'd seen them in years. "Why did they do this?" I asked. "What do they want?" She looked at me for a long moment. "They want me to sign over the house. The land. Everything your grandfather left me. That's insane. They can't just lock us up here until you agree. They think they can." She paused. "But they don't understand what they're really after." I knelt in front of her. "Grandma, what are you talking about?" She reached out and touched my face gently. "I should have told you years ago, but I was afraid. Afraid the past would find us again." She took a shaky breath. "It found us anyway." She stood up slowly, and I helped her walk toward the far wall. It looked like any other part of the attic, covered in old wallpaper that was peeling at the edges. But Grandma ran her fingers along a specific spot, pressing gently until something clicked. A section of the wall swung inward. My heart stopped. Behind it was a small safe, built directly into the wall studs. Old, but solid. She entered a combination with practiced ease, and the door opened with a soft groan. Inside was a metal lockbox, a stack of yellowed papers, and a photograph I didn't recognize. She lifted the lockbox like it was made of glass. "This," she whispered, "is why they really want this house." I stared at the contents as she opened it. Documents with official stamps, a leather journal filled with chemical formulas, and a photograph of a young woman in a lab coat, standing in front of scientific equipment. The woman looked exactly like me. "That's you," I breathed. She nodded. 53 years ago. Before I became Grace Mitchell. Before I disappeared. The cold attic suddenly felt colder. Disappeared from what? She handed me the photograph. From Harmon Pharmaceuticals. From the life they stole from me. I knew the name. Everyone did. Harmon was one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the country. They made billions every year. "I don't understand," I said. Grandma sat back down heavily. "In 1971, I developed a treatment. A real treatment for Mitchell's disease. The genetic condition that killed my mother and my sister. I was so close to finishing the trials. So close to saving lives." Her voice cracked. "But someone at Harmon found out. They wanted the formula. Not to help people. To control it. To price it so high that only the wealthy could afford it. What happened? I refused to hand it over." Her eyes grew distant. "So, they took everything. They fired me, destroyed my lab, claimed my research as their own. And when I threatened to go public, they threatened my family. Your grandfather. Your mother, who was just a baby." My throat tightened. "So you ran. I changed my name, moved here, started over." She touched the lockbox. "But I kept the evidence, the original formulas in my handwriting, the internal memos proving they knew it was my work. Everything they need to be destroyed. Grandma, that was 50 years ago. How does Marcus know about any of this? Her expression darkened. Because someone told him. Someone from Harmon. Before she could say more, footsteps creaked on the stairs outside. Lily. My brother's voice came through the door, cold and measured. Grandma needs to sign the papers. Make her understand it's the only way this ends well for everyone. I stood up, fury replacing fear. You locked a 79-year-old woman in a freezing attic on Thanksgiving. There's no version of this that ends well for you. Don't be dramatic. That was Victoria, my stepmother. She's being stubborn. Once she signs, you can both come down and have pie like nothing happened. Like nothing happened? I laughed bitterly. You've committed false imprisonment, elder abuse. This is criminal. Silence for a moment. Then Marcus spoke again, his voice harder now. You have until morning. If she hasn't signed by then, we're calling Mr. Crane. And trust me, Lily, you don't want to meet Mr. Crane. Their footsteps retreated down the stairs. I turned to Grandma, my heart racing. Who is Mr. Crane? She closed her eyes. He's the reason I've been hiding for 53 years. The name hung in the air like poison. Grandma's hands shook as she carefully returned the lockbox to the hidden safe. Raymond Crane, she said quietly. He was a young executive at Harmon when I worked there. Ambitious, ruthless. He's the one who orchestrated the theft of my research. And he's still there? After all these years? He's the CEO now. Her voice was bitter. Built his entire career on my work. The treatment I developed? They finally released it in 2015. Priced at $40,000 per treatment. People die every year because they can't afford it. I felt sick. And Marcus is working with him? Your brother has always wanted money more than family. When your father died and left everything to me instead of him, he started looking for ways to take it. She paused. Somehow, he found out about my past, about Harmon, about what I have hidden here. But how? You've kept this secret for decades. She shook her head. I don't know. Victoria has connections. She used to work in corporate law before she married your brother. Maybe she found old records. Maybe Crane has been searching all this time. A gust of wind rattled the window, and I shivered. We needed to get out of here. Grandma couldn't survive a night in this cold. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Of course. Then I remembered. Nathan Parker lived next door. We'd grown up together, and he was the closest thing I had to family besides Grandma. He always checked on her when I wasn't around. If anyone would notice something was wrong, it would be him. Nathan might come looking, I said. He was supposed to stop by tomorrow. Tomorrow might be too late. I looked around the attic, searching for options. The window was small but not impossible. I could maybe squeeze through, drop onto the lower roof, and get help. I'm going to try the window, I said. Lily, it's a 20-foot drop. There's a trellis on the side of the house. I used to climb it when I was a kid. Grandma grabbed my arm. If you go, take this. She pressed a small key into my palm. If anything happens to me, if they get the lockbox, there's a second copy. Everything. Hidden where only you can find it. What do you mean, where only I can find it? She squeezed my hand. The old greenhouse. Your grandfather built a safe into the foundation when he constructed it. Biometric lock. Kayed to family DNA. Her eyes met mine. Your DNA, Lily. I set it up years ago. You're the only one who can open it. My mind reeled. Why me? Because you're the only one I trust. Before I could respond, we heard a sound. Not from inside the house. From outside. A car door. I rushed to the window and peered through the grimy glass. A black sedan had pulled into the driveway. A tall man in a dark coat stepped out, his silver hair catching the porch light. Even from here, something about him made my skin crawl. Marcus emerged from the front door, practically bowing as he shook the man's hand. Grandma appeared beside me, her face pale. That's him. That's Crane. My blood ran cold. He came here? Tonight? He's tired of waiting. Her voice was barely a whisper. 53 years, and he's finally found me. I watched as Crane surveyed the property with cold, calculating eyes. Then he looked up, directly at the attic window. He smiled, and I knew with absolute certainty that we had to get out of here. Now, I didn't hesitate. I shoved the window open, cold air blasting my face, and squeezed through the narrow frame. The old trellis groaned under my weight, but it held as I climbed down, my fingers numb and my heart pounding. I dropped the last few feet into the bushes, scratching my arms on the branches. The voices from the front porch drifted around the corner. I had maybe seconds before someone noticed. I ran, through the back gate, across the frozen field, toward the warm lights of Nathan's farmhouse. My lungs burned, my legs ached, but I didn't stop until I was pounding on his door. It swung open, and Nathan stood there in a flannel shirt and jeans, his face shifting from surprise to alarm in an instant. "Lily? What the hell happened to you?" I pushed past him into the warmth. "I need your help. Grandma's in trouble. Marcus locked us in the attic, and there's a man named Crane, and they want her to sign over everything, and I think they might hurt her." Nathan grabbed my shoulders, steadying me. "Slow down. Start from the beginning." So I did. I told him everything. The attic, the hidden safe, Harmon Pharmaceuticals, the stolen research, Crane. When I finished, his jaw was tight with barely contained anger. "We're calling the police. They have connections," Grandma said. "Crane has people everywhere. Then we go get her ourselves." He grabbed his coat and keys. "My truck's out back. We can approach from the old service road, come in through the woods." "Nathan, this is dangerous." He looked at me with steady eyes. "Your grandmother practically raised me after my mom passed. I'm not leaving her in that attic." 20 minutes later, we were crouched in the tree line behind my grandmother's house. The black sedan was still in the driveway, and through the kitchen window, I could see Marcus and Victoria talking with Crane. "There's a back door through the mudroom," I whispered. "If we can get in without being seen, we can reach the attic stairs." Nathan nodded. "I'll create a distraction. Draw them outside. You get your grandmother and head for my truck." "What kind of distraction?" He grinned slightly. "I'll think of something." Before I could argue, he was gone, slipping through the shadows toward the front of the house. I waited, heart hammering against my ribs. Then I heard it. A crash. Glass shattering. Nathan's voice yelling something about a fire. The kitchen emptied instantly. I heard the front door bang open. Voices shouting. I ran. Through the mudroom, up the back stairs, my feet barely touching the steps. The attic door was locked from outside with a simple padlock. I grabbed a fire extinguisher from the hallway and smashed it until the lock gave way. Grandma was huddled in the corner, wrapped in old curtains for warmth. Her face lit up when she saw me. "Lily, we have to go. Now." I helped her up, and we moved as fast as her legs could carry her. Down the stairs, through the hallway, toward the mudroom. We were almost to the back door when a voice stopped us cold. "Going somewhere?" Crane stood in the kitchen doorway, blocking our path. Behind him, Marcus appeared, his face furious. "You climbed out the window," Marcus spat. "Always were a stubborn little. That's enough." Crane's voice was quiet, but it carried absolute authority. He stepped forward, studying my grandmother with unsettling intensity. "Dr. Grace Whitmore. It's been a very long time." Grandma lifted her chin. "Not long enough." Crane smiled. "I have to admit, you hid well. 53 years in this backwater town, and we only found you because your grandson got greedy." He shot Marcus a dismissive glance. "He came to us, you know, trying to sell information about a family secret worth millions." Marcus had the decency to look uncomfortable. Crane continued, his eyes never leaving Grandma. "I want the original documents, Grace. The formulas in your handwriting, the internal memos, everything you've been hoarding all these years, so you can destroy them? So this unfortunate chapter can finally be closed." He spread his hands. "I'm offering you a deal. Sign over the property, give me the documents, and you can live out your remaining years in peace. Your granddaughter won't be implicated in any of this." "Implicated in what?" I demanded. Crane turned his cold gaze on me. "Your grandmother stole proprietary research when she left Harmon. Technically, she's been in possession of stolen property for 53 years. That's a federal crime." "That's a lie." Grandma's voice shook with rage. "That research was mine. I developed it. You stole it from me. Prove it." The word hung in the air like a challenge. And that's when everything changed. Because Grandma smiled. A small, triumphant smile that made Crane's confident expression flicker. "I can prove it," she said quietly. "Every document I have is dated and notarized from before Harmon filed their patents. I have the original lab notebooks with timestamps. I have recorded conversations. I have everything, Mr. Crane. Everything you thought you destroyed." Crane's face went pale. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" The room was silent for a long moment. Then Crane lunged forward and grabbed Grandma's arm. "Where are they? Where are the documents?" I moved without thinking, shoving myself between them. "Don't touch her." Crane's eyes flashed with something dangerous. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, little girl." "I know exactly what I'm dealing with." My voice was steadier than I felt. A man who built his empire on stolen work. A thief who got rich while people died because they couldn't afford the medicine my grandmother invented. "Lily," Marcus stepped forward, trying to sound reasonable. "Just tell us where the documents are. This doesn't have to be complicated." "You locked your own grandmother in an attic," I said coldly. "You don't get to talk about complicated." Sirens wailed in the distance. Everyone froze. Crane's head snapped toward the window. Red and blue lights flickered through the trees. "Nathan. He must have called the police after all." "This isn't over," Crane hissed. He released Grandma and strode toward the front door, pulling out his phone. Marcus and Victoria scrambled after him like frightened dogs. By the time the police cars pulled into the driveway, Crane's sedan was already disappearing down the road. But Marcus and Victoria weren't fast enough. The next few hours were a blur of statements and questions and paramedics checking Grandma's vitals. She was treated for mild hypothermia but declared stable. Nathan stayed with us the entire time, a steady presence in the chaos. When the police finally left, with Marcus and Victoria in custody for false imprisonment and elder abuse, Grandma squeezed my hand. "It's not finished," she said quietly. "Crane will be back. He'll find another way. Then we fight back." She looked at me with something like hope. "There's a lawyer in Nashville, Diana Walsh. She specializes in corporate fraud cases. I've been saving her number for years, waiting for the right moment. I'd say this is the moment." 3 days later, we sat in Diana Walsh's office, overlooking downtown Nashville. She was sharp-eyed and fierce, exactly what we needed. When Grandma finished telling her story, Diana leaned back in her chair. "If what you're saying is true, if you have documented evidence that Harmon Pharmaceuticals stole your research, this could be one of the biggest corporate fraud cases in decades." "It's true," Grandma said firmly. "Every word." Diana nodded slowly. "Then let's get to work." The greenhouse safe opened exactly as Grandma said it would. When I pressed my hand to the biometric scanner, something clicked deep inside the mechanism, and the heavy door swung open. Inside were boxes. Dozens of boxes filled with notebooks, recordings, photographs, and documents. 53 years of carefully preserved evidence. Diana's team spent 2 weeks cataloging everything. When they finished, she called us into her office with a grim expression. "We have enough," she said. "More than enough. We're filing suit against Harmon Pharmaceuticals for intellectual property theft, fraud, and conspiracy, and we're going public." Grandma's eyes filled with tears. After all these years, Diana confirmed. "Raymond Crane is going to face everything he's done." The story broke 3 weeks later. National news, international headlines. The CEO of Harmon Pharmaceuticals, exposed as a thief who built his career on stolen research. Crane denied everything, of course, but the evidence was overwhelming. Dated documents, time-stamped notebooks, recorded conversations from 1971 that proved beyond doubt that Grace Whitmore was the true inventor of the treatment that had made Harmon billions. Within a month, Crane was forced to resign. Criminal charges were filed, investigations were launched, and my grandmother, finally, was recognized. Dr. Grace Whitmore. The brilliant scientist who had been erased from history. The woman who had hidden for 53 years to protect her family. She stood at the podium during the press conference, frail but unbowed, and told her story to the world. When she finished, she looked directly into the cameras. "I spent most of my life running from the truth," she said quietly. "Hiding who I was, hiding what I'd done. But truth has a way of surviving. And today, I'm not hiding anymore. The settlement came 6 months later, a number so large it didn't feel real. But more importantly, Harmon was forced to lower the price of the treatment. Lives would be saved. Families wouldn't have to choose between medicine and bankruptcy. That was what mattered. Marcus pleaded guilty to his charges and received probation. I haven't spoken to him since. Victoria filed for divorce and disappeared somewhere I don't care to know. Crane is awaiting trial. The evidence against him is damning. He'll likely spend the rest of his life in prison. And me? I'm sitting on Grandma's porch as I finish telling you this story. The autumn leaves are falling, and the air smells like wood smoke and possibility. Nathan's truck is parked in the driveway. He comes by every day now. Grandma is inside, working on her memoir. A real publisher reached out. People want to hear her story in her own words. She asked me to write the dedication. I wrote, "For everyone who was told their truth didn't matter. It does. It always did. Thank you, dear listeners, for staying with me through this story. If it moved you, if it made you think about the power of family and truth and fighting for what's right, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and tell me where you're listening from. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us for many more powerful, emotional, true stories. Your support means the world. Until next time, stay safe, stay kind, and never be afraid to tell your truth.